What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about big picture retail in 2017.
Big picture?
What is going on?
What is going on?
What is going on? There's a lot of new demands from consumers, new technology available, things that brands and retailers have to do in order to keep up, you know?
That sounds hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Tonight, we are talking about convergence and the consumer. Fortunately for us, our guest tonight has quite a bit of experience and quite a bit to say about this. Our guest tonight began his career as a design technologist. After a stint in the digital media group at Hearst, he joined a little startup called BuzzFeed, where as director of design, he created BuzzFeed quizzes, as well as other numerous well-known features. And in 2015, he joined another startup called Jet.com, and soon became the director of innovation at Jet Lab, where the team focuses on the next generation of e-commerce technologies like AI-powered experiences, VR and AR, IoT, and innovation culture. He is now leaving Jet to consult with another yet-to-be-named startup retail organization. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Ben Running. Hello, hello.
Thank you, Dustin.
Welcome, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Are we adequately plied with libations?
One thing that I wanted to start with that I just think is incredibly interesting and salient is really your background.
Yep.
And the fact that from this journey of being a design technologist into BuzzFeed and the journey at Jet.com is really kind of also marking a journey of how this convergence has all been happening.
Yeah.
So can you talk to us just a little bit about that journey and what are some of the takeaways that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I can go back to design school, where I was studying art. I was studying graphic design. I was also taking computer science classes, and I think like a lot of other people at the time were like, this World Wide Web thing is neat. Let's start looking at the source code of web pages, see if we can like copy it and paste it into other things, change it, and kind of learn how to code from experimentation. But at the time, the art people were like, no, the internet, technology, not art. And the computer science people were like, we don't care about design, that's not what we do. So I was kind of sitting at this intersection of the two. I worked for kind of a variety of small startups, and as you said, then went to Hearst. Around that time, design was kind of becoming a more formalized thing. We were learning what it meant to be a digital designer. It was the birth of mobile. We were learning what it means to develop for mobile, what it means to design for mobile.
Right.
Fundamentally, what do people do on mobile that they do on desktop? How are these things different? Basic stuff, text sizes, button sizes. And I really became more of a proper designer in that sense. What I knew, though, was that this company kind of functioned in a way that used these, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these like Microsoft project plans that are these very traditional kind of like waterfall project plans, and you get a stack of paper that big. And I knew that we were building these like great websites for blue chip, awesome magazine brands like Esquire and 17, but we were not producing great stuff because of the process. I didn't exactly know what was wrong, but I knew it wasn't working that way. So when I had the opportunity to start talking to people at BuzzFeed, they said this thing that kind of blew my mind, which was, it doesn't have to be great. If people want to see something, we just do it. We hack it together. If the design's crappy, if it doesn't work right, who cares? We'll fix it up later, or we'll change it if it doesn't work. And I thought, yes, that's what I do. That is what we should be doing. So yeah, I had the opportunity to do great stuff at BuzzFeed. Touched almost everything that BuzzFeed made in this about 3.5-year period, from, as you mentioned, BuzzFeed quizzes to kind of evolving the brand from this company that was known for stealing memes off Reddit and cat gifs and things like that. And what does it mean to actually make this into a proper media brand? People are going to read articles online. We're going to have a serious news brand. We're going to start to get into video. So it was a great honor to see things like quizzes and BuzzFeed styles get knocked off by not only other startups, but by when NBC News is kind of like stealing your graphics from BuzzFeed. I'm like, we're doing something right, guys. This is working.
Totally. Was it clear, like the direction that they wanted to go?
It was about legitimizing the product that was there at the time, and then growing it in a way that we were going to find out along the way exactly what it meant.
Right.
Okay. So at first that kind of meant, what does it mean to publish articles instead of just lists, right?
Right.
We love the list. Lists are great. What does it mean to do stuff like quizzes, interactive formats? I loved working at BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
I worked with great people. I think we did amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And it was the opportunity at Jet and kind of this crazy, audacious, huge thing that drew me there.
It was crazy and audacious. I mean, Jet was founded when?
2014.
2014.
Yep.
It was sold
in 2016
for
$3.3 billion, which, to go back and look at it, like, it does seem kind of crazy to hear people say, we have this company now, it's like 50 people, we're going to compete with Amazon. We're going to build this thing, we're going to build it super fast, it's going to be a new generation e-commerce site.
What was the big light bulb that kind of went off? I mean, what was that big insight that you first got when you were working there with them?
I think it was customer centricity.
Yeah.
It was like, we are going to design a thing for people, and we are going to do that by talking to people, by investing in research, by really looking at the ways people use our product. And it occurred to me that so many companies, certainly no company I had ever worked at, had invested in research like this. And I've worked places where we've developed a website, launched the website, and then done a focus group 6 months later, and we're like, oh, it sucks. I guess we'll fix it up in a couple of years and we redesign it. And even at BuzzFeed, which was a tremendously progressive, agile, great company, where we would do kind of like A/B testing, bucket testing to see which version clicks better, we never actually talked to users, which just seems crazy to me now. From the get-go, Jet was really intent on talking to users just all the time.
Yeah.
Every week, getting in 5, 10 people. And it's so powerful as a designer to say, I'm going to have an idea on Monday, I'm going to prototype it on Tuesday, and Wednesday I can put it in front of a person and I can see them clicking on it, getting feedback on 2 logo concepts, packaging, retail assortment.
It's an interesting place to be because you can't rely on just being first.
Right.
So the point of differentiation, the competitive advantage had to come from improving the experience in some way, and yet at the same time, you got to move fast.
There were weeks and weeks and weeks when we would work 9 a.m. till midnight or 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning, just 7 days a week. The challenge, of course, for companies is like not to accumulate too much technical debt at that point, and to at least have the roadmap to say, okay, we're going to just be in this supercharged, fast building mode. At some point, we're going to be able to step back and really contextualize where we are, look forward, figure out where we want to go, make that roadmap, and start working on it. And we're feeling it out right now. People are, a new kind of generation of consumers, and people want to know that their company subscribes to their values. People want to shop someplace that they can, know that we've got your back. We agree fundamentally with the same things that you agree with. If your concerns are about the environment, sustainability, human rights, that company has my back. Building a company, to meet these modern demands is going to mean, I think, wearing these kind of values on your sleeve a little bit, and it's going to be about kind of building out an omni-channel experience, which is an often used and abused word, but an experience around kind of the modern technology that people know and appreciate, a brick and mortar retail experience, customer service, social, and just kind of realizing all of these touch points.
It's a lot of new stuff to manage.
Yeah.
Are the ones who are succeeding finding a way to bring all of that together?
I think they are. I mean, I see if you're just relying on selling product A for a certain price, almost anybody can do that. And now if you rely on something like 2-day shipping, anybody can do 2-day shipping. So what do those extra things look like? How do we begin to build a great experience that people can live with? And I think Amazon comes to mind. They're with things like the Echo. This fits into my life. It adds value even when I'm not purchasing from Amazon.
Right.
How do we create these services that are seamless, that are there when I need them, that can be easily appended to, easily added to, and essentially there at every touch point, feel consistent, feel useful, and feel truly responsive to my needs.
Right. You mentioned, again, the Amazon here, and then we have Walmart here, which is, continuing to consolidate. How do you see this battle between these titans moving forward?
It's a sexy media narrative to say, okay, you're having Amazon rushing to become Walmart.
Mothra,
You're right.
Godzilla.
Exactly,
we
right.
want to see them go after each other.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. You have Amazon buying up brick and mortar stores, buying up Whole Foods, guaranteed they're going to buy something else. There's talk about Lowe's, there's talk about Nordstrom, who knows what it's going to be. And then you have Walmart, which already has the brick and mortar locations, rushing to build out the awesome digital experience. I don't think you're going to end up with two identical companies. Amazon is probably going to be the more technologically advanced company. Walmart has the people advantage, and kind of as funny as it sounds to say that the Fortune 1, retail giant is a very people-focused company, the fact that there are Walmarts on the ground all across the country and people go there regularly and have these relationships with the stores, I think it counts for a lot.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to start seeing these companies building on their just native advantages.
As a brand agency, we're curious about the role of brand here, as you mentioned it. I did some digging on Jet, and when you look up about Jet, they have you can find everything about their mission, their purpose. They have values, trust, transparency.
So it's a thing, right? I think when you have a value prop that is so strong, such as Amazon's value prop, which is essentially, we will get you anything in the world in 1 hour to 48 hours maximum. It's hard to mess with that.
I will look the other way on a lot
exactly.
of things.
People will cut you a lot of slack
Right.
when you can do something like that.
Right.
That said, going back to my previous point, as more of this stuff becomes commoditized, fast delivery becomes commoditized, great prices, great selection, as more and more vendors can offer these things, if in fact they can. I know Walmart has an awful lot of products, not as many as Amazon. They have very fast delivery, not as fast as Amazon, but as these things get up to speed with Amazon, I think they're going to need to kind of go the extra mile to prove that they are the brand you want to shop at. Yep. So how do you do this, right? So back to your earlier point in terms of looking at values, if you look at Amazon's social feeds, it's not about people, right? And I have no doubt that internally Amazon is a great, progressive, people-friendly company. But if you look at Jet's social media, you see people, right? You see Pride Day celebrations. There were drag queens and rainbow cupcakes in the office. And these are Jet's values. And they are not afraid to say, this is what we're about. We know this is what we're about. If you disagree with it, you can shop somewhere else. But I think that fewer people are going to say, screw those guys, I'm going to shop somewhere else. And more people are going to say, hey, this is a company that I can identify with.
Do you think that does Walmart hold that same perspective, do you think? Is that something that they recognize as potentially a winning card for them or some competitive edge?
I think they come at it from a different perspective. There's an external perception of Walmart that very much differs from the internal perception of Walmart. I think they understand this. And when you are that big and you serve kind of that diverse an audience, across the whole country and the whole world, in fact, maybe you want to be a little more, they feel like they need to be a little more restrained.
Yep.
Honestly, I don't think it would hurt them to kind of wear their heart on their sleeve a little more. For all brands, I think it goes to really figuring out what you believe in. Y'all have probably seen the Simon Sinek TED Talk. That's the start with why, right? And the example he uses is Apple. So Apple is about changing your life and empowering you and making things better for you. What do? They're a computer company. Sorry. How do they do it? They're a computer company. And then the outer ring is the what, right? They make phones. They make computers. A lot of people make phones and computers. Those are the commoditized elements. So as more and more of the actual product starts to become commoditized, you have to really lean on that internal why and start to show that, because people are going to make their decisions based on that why. So I think it's up to brands and it's up to retailers to figure out what they believe in and to be brave about telling their customers that stuff.
It's interesting, again, upping the ante in terms of what is required today in order to be, competitive.
Yeah.
You need to have a strong culture because
You need to have a
things
soul,
are moving
right?
so fast.
Yeah.
We need to create a place that can attract the highest performers, and those
Right.
highest performers need to be driven by clarity of purpose.
And I mean, I think it's a great value prop too. Just you go into Sweet Green, for instance, right? They have a chalkboard on the wall that tells you where every one of their ingredients is from, the farm it's from, the town it's from, and you may say, oh, hey, I know that farm. I've seen it at the farmer's market, or I know that town. I drive through it. I know they have farms there. Well, it just feels so good to see that on the wall versus going into Chopped, where it's just like, who knows where this stuff is? It tastes fine, but who knows where this stuff is from? And again, it's about sort of like proving just that little extra mile that you care. This is what we are about, and this is how we're showing it.
The game of inches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to see, as we talk about this convergence, again, retailers getting into media, working on their operations, building their own brands, extending across the board, really controlling this network. And yet, for so many CPG companies, they've still been very slow to change this model. What is to become of these large
The mega
CPG companies? How do they also converge?
Nelson Peltz was the activist shareholder who went to P&G and basically said, you guys have to change things. You're a behemoth. You have too many failed products. And essentially the failures are being absorbed by the company, right? So when a brand fails, you should allow it to fail. And in order to do that, you need to basically break up the company into small parts. Companies should just function sort of like a collection of small startups. If something's not working, it dies, that's it. These companies have to innovate on their own. They have to basically live and die each with their own P&L. I think in a lot of ways that's similar to what Walmart is doing, essentially building a collection of small companies. Small, I say small. You have Jet, you have Bonobos, ModCloth, Hayneedle, Shoes.com. There are more that I'm not thinking of.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like almost a modern day shopping mall.
Yeah.
And I think you are going to be obviously have greater leeway to innovate, have greater leeway to sort of build relationships with your consumer. You're most likely going to see a lot of these CPG brands probably starting to split up, probably starting to lose brands. I think Unilever really spooked a lot of these companies when it bought Dollar Shave Club, which Dollar Shave Club rose super quickly. They bought it to compete essentially with P&G.
Yep.
And I think this is going to be probably a model going forward for a lot of these companies, that they should start to look for these small companies. They should start to incubate themselves.
Yep.
They should invest in innovation.
Right.
And innovation in the sense that you have to give a company leeway. You have to give people inside the company leeway to try small experiments, try them cheap, recognize when they're working, and figure out how to scale those things quickly.
Right.
Right. And it takes a real commitment to doing it. You can do a lot for really cheap. Right. You can build these small experiments, test these ideas, see if there's traction in one of these things for relatively small dollars, as opposed to a kind of top-down huge idea, which I go back to my time at Hearst Magazines, which was this giant idea at the top, and by the time it trickled out 6 or 8 months later, it could be a total piece of junk because it's never seen the light of day. And the way that we develop at Jet and also at BuzzFeed was start with a kernel of an idea, throw it out there, see if people like it, see if it has traction. If it doesn't, no big deal. We've only been working on it for a couple of months. If it does, okay, let's take the next step. Let's iterate a little bit. And then after that same 6 or 8 months, instead of this top-down thing that's seeing the light of day, you have this little idea that's been iterated on 100 times. Each idea and each iteration backed by consumer insight and backed by true learning.
Right. And on the the CPG front, it would seem there is going to be a whole need for a shift in the infrastructure, because the way that we're set up right now, we've got these huge factories that are cranking out huge volume, and we're not built to have these small experiments.
We're definitely seeing a trend in that. I think a lot of companies are interested in kind of building these like kind of going back to the garage and almost building these like firewalled off like experiment facilities where these things can happen in private, sort of without the exposure of kind of the bureaucracy of the big company, the levels of red tape it needs to, undergo. I know that certain large companies that I've spoken to have, when they've gotten a small startup they're interested in working with, they've actually bankrupted these companies because if you have a 3-person startup and you give them a contract like this to even like get their device in to test it, they can't do it.
Right.
That's just not possible. So it's about building these facilities where you can kind of go off without the, heavy overhead of the company and work like you are these small startups.
Yeah.
I think this is a very popular thing for companies to do right now. But it really takes a institutional kind of commitment to innovate, basically, right? And then, of course, scaling is the hard part, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out, like, okay, this has traction. How do we actually scale this to the enterprise level?
Right.
And it just takes commitment on the enterprise level to do it.
Who's doing a good job out there? I mean, what are you seeing? Where do you see positive signs of people who are getting it right?
I know I've seen really great stuff coming out of Visa. These people are, like they know which way the wind is blowing. They go out there and they talk to hundreds of college kids and they say, hey, would you rather send money by tapping a button in an app, or would you rather get a credit card and have to worry about a FICO score and late payments? And of course 100% of respondents are like, tap a button in an app, right? So kind of driven by these consumer insights, they're doing really great work, and they are not standing still. We see companies like Tesla doing amazing stuff, and kind of like Elon Musk as the parent brand with all of like sort of his portfolio of companies innovating super quickly, right? Verizon is another company, interestingly, doing great stuff.
Yeah.
They have a really great innovation facility. They have a couple of them, and they are almost kind of working as an agency for outside companies who come in and say, hey, we have this problem, we want to solve it. Can you guys help us solve this problem? Maybe it's about connected parking meters, or maybe it's about some other infrastructure problem or communications problem. And they will essentially take these client projects on almost on an agency level. And then if it works, they can productize the solution. I think that's really cool.
We've seen what's happened to big box. We've seen what's happened to the people who are like, maybe this will change back. Who's next?
Sears, I think like Sears and JCPenney were still like multiple billions of dollars in 2016.
Yes.
They're now like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
So they have already, shrunk by, another large percentage. I think since Sears is down like 99.98% in market cap since 2006 or something. Some companies are not going to make it.
Yep.
I would expect to see more consolidation. I think Costco and Target and Kohl's, as well as like drugstore brands, Walgreens and Rite Aid. I don't expect Google and Facebook to kind of idly sit by. These are both companies that have already done this kind of like dance around retail. Google has the Google Home connected device.
Right.
And a connected device, I believe, is most useful when you can use it for shopping.
Yep.
You can use it for kind of like Google-esque activities or smart home stuff, but without shopping, what are you going to do with the thing? And they do have a retail program built into it. It's not fulfilled by Google. It kind of sends the order out to the highest bidder. So your order could come from Walmart, for instance. I would expect them to gain their own retail capabilities. Facebook, another company that has, facilitated the peer-to-peer transaction, formalized marketplace, kind of done a lot of this dance around commerce, but never actually, said, hey, here's the Facebook grocery store, which kind of seems weird. But like the Amazon grocery store kind of seemed weird to me like a couple of years ago. And now
this is the world we live in.
Yeah.
This is the world we live in. Is there anything else that people aren't seeing? That's another question that I have.
The blockchain.
Yeah.
Come on, the blockchain. I mean, this is it's a transformative thing that is coming faster than you think, decentralizing almost everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what the applications of it are going to look like, but you are going to see blockchain marketplaces that are secure, that are easy to use, and they are decentralized elements. And Amazon and Walmart and everybody else are most certainly thinking about how that is going to affect them and what that's going to mean.
Yes.
The rise of AI too. We all know, we're all like kind of vaguely familiar with AI as a thing, right? It's this device that can answer questions for me. It's related product. It's whatever else. The acceleration curve for AI, it's not like this. The acceleration curve for AI is like that. It is going to, going back to your comment about washing machines ordering for you, this is going to become the reality very soon. And again, that raises the question again, if you are in sort of the Amazon ecosystem, the Walmart ecosystem, the whatever else ecosystem, and your washing machine needs to order laundry detergent, it knows you like Tide Pod's Fresh Mountain Scent, but hey, when Amazon offers it, Amazon Basics laundry detergent Fresh Mountain Scent, the AI seems like the logical decision, right?
Exactly.
9,000 positive reviews.
Right.
Half the
and,
price.
and the price differential too, right? I mean, it's going to be saving you money as well, right? 'Cause
Exactly.
you're going to get things ordered in bulk, and it will provide tremendous savings for people here too. Which
Right.
again,
So slow shipping, right? Also another thing. And I think this goes to kind of like last mile delivery and logistics in general. But once you can kind of get smarter about when and what you order, once you have devices ordering for you, you don't need to worry about 2-day shipping, right? And if you can have more of these local pickup points as well, you can get that kind of like last mile expense out of the logistics chain.
Right.
It's extremely valuable for companies.
which I think you mentioned here, like 30% of the cost is in.
It's something like 35% of the cost. So shipping is probably the biggest expense for most of these companies. So if you could all of a sudden trim one of your biggest expenses by 35%, epic, right?
Yeah. Listen, give a big round of applause here too for Ben. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.